Presidential Economic Advisor and the Green Hydrogen Commissioner. James, good evening and welcome to the Daily Roundup.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. It's great to be back in the Daily Roundup.
James, to start with, talk to us about, there were 20 applications, 4 obviously successful ones were revealed today at the conference. So quickly, briefly chat to us about them and the criteria that they had to meet.
Sure, fantastic. So, hopefully people remember that this was part of this joint communication of intent program. The 40 million euros was sort of broken up into 3 programs. 5 million for scholarships, 5 million for the strategy, and the 30 million was for these pilot projects. Essentially, the pilot programs had to put business proposals divided into 2 modules. The first module was the commercial aspect. It needed to be using hydrogen in a local commercial setting. It needed to have a German and a Namibian partner. Modules 2 actually could have been a purely R&D project. Research and development. And then, of course, they were also allowed to put together hybrids, a module 1 and a module 2 application. A lot of the strong applicants actually combined both elements. So, one of the successful projects, for example, would have been looking to repurpose or redesign Namibia locomotives to become dual fuel locomotives where they can use hydrogen and diesel. And then they would have partnered with the University of Namibia, for example, that would have seconded students to be part of the research and engineer and redesign some of these engines. So those were roughly the criteria. And we're super excited about the 4 applicants that were successful.
What is the process going forward, James? And talk to us about how Namibians can participate in these projects.
Yeah. So the process going forward is, look, we only had 30 million euros. I mean, the total funding needs for all of these projects are well in excess of 30 million euros, which is about $500 million. So the projects were anywhere between 1.3, 1.4 billion in total, maybe even more actually. But the process going forward is now the strategic working committee, obviously comprising of both Namibians and Germans, will now call the project up, get the latest estimate of their budgets, what their needs are at the moment. Some of them may have started already, maybe not. And then we will now look to allocate the funding basket across the 4 projects. Some of the projects are larger companies with potential alternative sources of funding. Other projects don't have deep pockets. So you might be looking to fund larger portions of those projects without the deep pockets. And some of the bigger projects, you can think of the ONLs and the CMBs of those worlds, they might not receive as big a portion of their asking grant funding, right? But the idea is that some of this grant funding actually helps them unlock, other commercial funding. So that's the process that we're going to be following in the next 2 to 3 weeks with the successful applicants. With those who were not successful, we would actually like to ask permission to collect their information and bound it in a booklet because the Namibian government would like to help them raise additional funding from elsewhere. So we would like to market them as investment opportunities into Namibia. If you are not part of the applications for these pilot projects, but you're a student or a laborer, of course, you could get attached to some of these pilot projects. You could work at some of these pilot projects. These projects will create construction jobs. They will create R&D jobs, offtakes, etc. So if I was anyone out there, I would call any of the 4 projects and ask how I could get involved.
James, the National Planning Commission, together with various stakeholders, has embarked on a vigorous information sharing campaign across the country. What has the outcome been of that?
Look, I think it's been great. So, the National Planning Commission, of course, the DG is the chairperson of the Green Hydrogen Council, and he's done a great job of, sharing with a lot of people around the country what green hydrogen is about in very basic terms. The Minister of Finance has done his bit, and the Minister of Mines and Energy as well has done his bit. And all of those 3 ministers are members of the Green Hydrogen Council, where I would have done my bit as well. Now, the idea with those sessions is really to bring down to the local levels the very basics of what it actually takes to run a green hydrogen industry. And it's not always as complicated as it sounds. Some of it is just construction of renewable energy projects, construction of roads, construction of a green hydrogen service station. So the idea has been to demystify what a green hydrogen industry or a synthetic fuels industry would look like in Namibia. And the feedback has been amazing. People are very excited. Others, of course, were still sort of questioning how it could all work. But these pilot projects are supposed to do exactly that. Show Namibians in very simple terms what the brick and mortar infrastructure could look like early on, even before you get the very large projects going, 2 to 3 years from now.
And with this demystifying, James, do you believe that Namibians now have a better comprehension of Namibia's green hydrogen ambitions?
Um, you know, Not everybody does, but you got to start somewhere, right? So the more the Daily Roundup has me on their show, the more the NPCs out there doing their bit, the more Namibians will know. We received 1,150 applications for the scholarships. So those guys definitely know what green hydrogen is about. We received more than 20 applications for the pilot projects. So those companies and their employees know what it's about. And as we're going out there into the communities, we're getting more and more people getting to know it. So I believe it's a partnership. And ourselves working together with people such as yourselves, this is how we actually get the message out there, and which is why I'm very appreciative of the Daily Roundup for giving us the platform.
James, on that note, we'll be sure to have you back soon again. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me, ma'am. Have a good evening.
When we come back, we speak more to some guests, but we take a quick break.